I'll go ahead and kick it off. And I'll set this up a little bit and want you to introduce yourself. But Juan and I met at Netflix. I often talk about Netflix as just like a playground for learning and just being surrounded by the most brilliant minds. And it was very kind of like formative for me in terms of an experience, really kind of taught me what great looks like. And Juan, so much of that is because of you. I reported up into you at Netflix. And when I talk about that and when I talk about really learning from the best, I am referring to you. So it is an honor to have you here today. Not just me, a lot of growth marketers around town will really like credit you for their success and having learned under you. So honor to have you here. Welcome. I would love to just hear a little bit, what kind of give us your background and explain to us like what makes you qualified to be here today talking about international and winning internationally in growth.
The winning part is a questionable one, if you want. So first, thank you for saying all of that. You know that I don't deserve that much credit. There were a lot of smart people at Netflix from whom we both learned a lot. I was just maybe awake and curious enough to actually pass the message in some way. But a lot of what you are referring to was that special moment that we spent at Netflix with really, really smart. And we can go through some names as we tell stories. But okay, a little bit about me. I'm originally from Argentina, born in Buenos Aires. I was close enough to the internet and old enough to have lived the 2000 internet bubble. Yeah, closed my first startup experience when I was short 20s in the year 2000 and moved to another startup based in Buenos Aires. Then, went and studied abroad, came back, tried a little bit of a traditional career and realized that wasn't for me, and went back to startups, specifically Libra, where I met Diego that you know. So so since then, I would say very early in my career, I almost never worked for the local market for Argentina. Very early had regional roles. I had to work with regional teams. After doing more startup e-commerce, price comparison type of jobs, I moved to work in search, and joined one of the first digital agencies at the time. I learned a lot from one of the founders. We were managing Dell computers. At the time, this is probably 2008. So doing all of their e-commerce across Latin America. That's where, in some way, I learned some of the first online performance campaigns and those kind of things and tactics that probably we'll talk about. Then moved to work on the agency side, more traditional in some way. Did some time at Publicis, did some time at WPP. And that took me to the US, actually. I relocated in 2009 to the US. And from there, I joined Netflix, moved to LA and joined Netflix at a beautiful time where they were actually launching internationally launching their own shows. And in many ways, educating what streaming was around the world. I first joined to run Latin America digital team. 6 months in, my job disappeared. We can talk and tell stories there, but I run markets, I run media across the Americas, I run programmatic inventory development across the Americas as well. And I ended up running the global acquisition team. A lot of what we did at the time gave us the confidence to actually build a global acquisition practice, and I moved to lead that team. And I'm sure I will talk a little bit about that as well. After that, I met Meg Whitman and went to do the crazy Quibi thing. We can probably talk about that as well. And after we closed Quibi, decided to take some time off. At the time, I had 2 kids. And I convinced Vicky, my wife, to maybe relocate to Madrid. and take a sabbatical to figure out if we wanted to live in Europe. She's originally from Spain. And I mentioned this to a VC, and 2 days later he called me and said, I met a fantastic startup in Berlin. You should talk to them. Fast forward 45 days, I was living in the middle of the pandemic, relocating my entire family to Berlin. And yeah, spent 3 years at True Republic, kind of Robin Hood type of business based here in Berlin. And now I'm leading the marketing organization at 1026, a pan-European neobank, one of the first truly mobile banks around the world. Yeah, we have a beautiful product and a beautiful business across Europe. Yeah, that's a little bit of my story.
Some of the people that you kind of touched along the way here are on today. I was just looking at the attendees. You've got some of the Quibi folks, Alex and Connor and Steven and Jacob. And I see Jack from our Netflix days here as well, our meta rep. So if you all have questions, if you want to jump in, raise your hand, drop it in the chat. I see Connor saying hello. So yeah, we can keep this interactive, and we'll make sure to open it up for questions at the end.
Try not to make me cry. Yeah, I'm only that I cry easily.
Okay, I'm gonna not get distracted by Connor's joke over there on the side, but
I'm not seeing those things. How can I see those things?
Oh, well, no, this is an inside joke. Juan used to tease Connor for getting married too young and said there's too much life to live. You got married too young, but we
were trying to convince him not to get married, but yeah, I was wrong.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Juan. Yeah. So where do you begin in a business like Netflix that is so big in so many countries? Where do you begin when you're thinking about building a global team? And I know there is some complexity also around what stays regional and what goes global. And what do you think about? Like, help us simplify the idea of going global when you're running growth.
Okay. So a couple of things. Yeah, maybe things that I didn't mention. So I was engaged with the Netflix business from day one international, but on the agency side. They first opened Canada to streaming, then they did little things in the Nordics, and the first big market that they opened was Latin America, where Netflix at the time took, I hope that nobody gets offended by what I'm going to say, but they took the gringo approach to Latin America. And they basically approached Latin America without any Latin American knowledge, and taking, fulfilling against all of the stereotypes of Latin America. And
my time.
Yeah, that was before your time. Yeah, and they made huge mistakes. They were going nowhere by that approach. Basically, they bought all of the wrong content. Yeah, and very gringo approach. They thought that it was going to be easy, and it wasn't. Yeah, so then they basically said, okay, we have to do it right, and they hired the entire marketing team. Yeah, based in HQ at the time, we were half and half between Los Gatos and LA. Yeah, but they actually brought people that knew the markets. That's basically when I moved to that team. Yeah, and from there they actually opened every country, with a local team and with a local approach. Yeah, so they try the very central approach, and then they try the very local approach. Yeah, and that one also got it wrong. Yeah, very, 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 very fast in that global expansion. Netflix realized that the completely decentralized model also wasn't the right one, was too chaotic. Everybody was doing something different. Yeah, they tried to centralize everything in Amsterdam. They literally closed all of the European offices and move everybody to Amsterdam. Yeah. And only then, after many tests, and a couple of years of basically trying to replace a lot of human marketing decisions through the application of some type of machine learning and algorithm. That gave us the confidence to actually take a more global approach on acquisition marketing, and we globalized that team.
Can I pause you there? Can I stop you? Did that moving back that way and globalizing it, because you mentioned at the beginning they had no local knowledge, no local context, and it was a disaster. Did it get bad again in the other direction where like these campaigns were no longer relevant for the local markets when you globalized?
Well, you had that tension and different understanding, but maybe I'll answer that in a second. But I think that Netflix story is not very different to many companies that actually went international. And when I reflect post Netflix and joining Trade Republic at a moment where they only opened France, but they already had plans to actually open across Europe, the story was kind of similar. They went hyper local in the beginning, and overhired local. And now sitting at N26, and the international story of N26 is also very, very similar. They went very, very local in the beginning. And so maybe the learnings are, everybody tells you that every market is special. And that every market is different. And that no, this is how you do it in Brazil. It's completely different than how you do it in France. And this will never work in Spain because people don't pay for movies in Spain. And no, how you're gonna launch this trading platform in France? French people don't invest in stock markets. And like if you're looking for the differences across markets. When you're going international, you're going to find the difference. And everybody's going to tell you that whatever you did in that local market and whatever traction you got in that local market, it's not going to work where you go next. And that was true for Netflix, if you want, because they took it a very gringo approach. They didn't pay attention to anything. More local, or they took the wrong assumptions in localizing. But I think that the learning from the Netflix experience, the Trade Republic experience, and the N26 experience is that you have to resist that push to actually be super local from the very beginning. And focus way more on the things that are similar across the markets, than the things that are different. You're trying to win that first point of market share, that second point of market share, that fifth point of market share. You can probably find more people that look alike across borders in the early days than later. So maybe the way that I would approach a global team is try to resist as much as possible to go hyper local, and try to scale globally first for as long as you can. Something that we also learned a lot at Netflix, to try to keep simplicity and complexity to the minimum and make sure that everybody focuses on the right things. The moment that you have 5 different local teams, especially when it comes to marketing, you end up with 5 different strategies. The one that likes to ITV, the one that likes to do performance marketing, the one that believes in influencers, and the one that loves out of home and goes and puts all of the money there. And that was true at Netflix at the time, and my experience in the last 2 companies is very similar. So my advice would be try to globalize as much as possible. But being mindful, and maybe creating a culture where things can surface to make sure that you don't take that gringo approach. Because depending on which category you are, you can make some mistakes that are costly. But that doesn't mean that you have to go hyper local.
I was at Netflix. I've been in other large organizations that have global teams, and Netflix certainly felt a lot less chaotic, even though we were investing in more markets with more money. And it's the focus. It's like you have to say no a lot, but you've kind of instilled that in me in terms of having a set of strategic principles that help you say no, because otherwise you're just going to get bogged down in every, little idea that's coming from every little market. So I've taken that with me. And again, it just feels much less chaotic when you approach it from the lens of how are these markets similar versus how are these markets different?
It's easier, when you have an incredible product, with incredible product market fit around the world, and people are waiting and craving for your product, which was the Netflix day, where some markets were difficult, but in general, it was relatively easy. We could do no wrong in that sense. It's much harder and more chaotic, when you're actually struggling and growth is harder in international markets, and you start to see that the magic that happened in your local market is not happening, and that probably leads to more central chaos, but it's a very, very different experience when you're winning than when you have to work hard.
Yep. We'll come back to this. I want to talk about like what happens when growth stalls and when you're not in a business like Netflix. But before we move on from international, you moved from the US, Silicon Valley, Hollywood to work in Europe. And I have never seen you tweet before, except when you're complaining about European privacy laws.
Maybe let's recap a little bit. Yeah. So I moved from Argentina first, which is chaos in itself and a very special place, if you want. So born and raised there. Grew professionally, and I've been brainwashed by a Netflix culture and a tech-oriented Silicon Valley type of doing things. And I moved to Europe, to Germany, to work in a bank regulated, by a German regulator. That was like a full experience. But look, I think that Europe with privacy and I don't know if you want to start with GDPR. It's literally chaos. It's a European law, that it's enforced, locally. And for example, in a market like Germany, it's not even enforced at a national level. It's enforced at a regional level. So when you are a bank, for example, like us, sitting in Berlin, you have the Berlin office regulating you on your application of GDPR. And they might interpret things very differently than the one sitting in Ireland, doing it with Google or with Facebook. And so already there you have inconsistency in how is interpreted, enforced, which creates a mess. Because depending on where you are, you're literally playing with different rules in some way, and then it creates all of these unintended consequences that I'm gonna get criticized for this, but many times it doesn't help that much on the privacy side. I'll tell you like a story here in Germany. So every house has their name in the ring bell. And if you don't put your name in the ring bell, you don't get the mail. Because if the postman comes looking for Bongiovanni and Bongiovanni is not in the ring bell, then Bongiovanni doesn't live here. How private that is. Your American mind cannot process that. And for example, many times your like I don't know, my health insurance password. It's not that you can just open an account online and create your the mail has to come for privacy reasons over physical mail to a mailbox that has your name. Makes no sense. So there are many of those things.
So they won't let you create an online login to your health stuff. They're mailing you the forms, but then the doorbell has your name on it. So yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah.
But so Juan, the Eric Seufert, who's I love his blog, Mobile Dev Memo, just kind of surfaced that France is pushing back on Apple's ATT policy, which ATT, app tracking transparency, where Apple surfaces the prompt where you can ask not to be tracked, and they're saying this is monopolistic behavior on the part of Apple. What's your reaction?
Yeah, maybe Europe will do the right thing here, right? And fix it for us. Yeah, probably the first time that I'd be rooting for Europe in this sense.
It is confusing like that they're pushing back here. Meanwhile, they're the ones who created GDPR.
This is the thing. Like, don't get me wrong. So, privacy is okay. GDPR is fine. It has good intentions. Yeah. The cap, in the bottles in Europe is attached to the bottle. Yeah. It has good intentions to actually do that. Yeah. Many of these regulations have good intentions. Yeah. But then when they get implemented, they don't work.
Yep.
And so this is another example on the opposite direction, where actually maybe what they're going to end up doing, which in some way it's understandable that they are getting accused of monopoly, being monopolistic in this sense, but it will affect on other things that Europeans care a lot. Yeah, it's not just by chance that. I think that American companies struggle a lot to expand to Europe. You know that I'm an early adopter on many things. It's killing me to be based in Europe with many products. Yeah, half of all of the AI features that you have in the US don't work in Europe. My Meta Ray-Bans don't work in Germany. So it's a real struggle.
Yep. Okay, I want to move on to like measurement and incrementality specifically. I've learned so much from you here. Talk to me a little bit about like, what does your measurement stack look like these days? We haven't worked together in a few years. What does it look like at N26? How do you report and kind of optimize on marketing's impact to the business? What is kind of best in class in your view? And then maybe we can talk about how your experience at Netflix kind of shaped your views here.
Maybe, okay, so you ask about the stack here at N26. Yeah, the first thing I'll say is we have still a lot of work to do. But basically, what we do is we develop our own MMM model. Yeah, we open source a model. We brought everything in-house. Yeah, and we try to calibrate that model based on experiment. Yeah.
Is it an MMM or is it an
MMM? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we are in that journey. Yeah, in some way. Is it perfect? By no means. Yeah, and look, I also have to acknowledge that I'm a relatively new CMO in a new company, so I only have 14 months with the team, and we've been in this journey of how to evolve our thinking and the measurement in that sense. Not very different to many other companies, that are looking for accountability and have a good understanding of how capital is being allocated in the form of marketing campaigns. I joined N26, and we were very focused on metrics that basically were based on correlation, and we were steering the business in a lot of correlation based metrics. And basically, if we go back to the Netflix days, and I've been brainwashed by this. Okay, so it's not that I was brainwashed. Yeah, so I was one of those marketers. Yeah, that it's not that I push back. Yeah, but I had a little bit of my pride. Yeah. This is a true story. I like you heard it 100 times. Yeah, but like when like the week that I joined Netflix, yeah, Reed picked me up in the office on Friday, takes you out for a walk, yeah, and he does his thing with new directors. And his first question to me was, "What are you gonna do with search? What about search? Yeah, paid search. Yeah, there is nothing wrong with paid search. Low CAC. Yeah, I don't know, 60-80% of my signups are coming from that channel. Yeah, Reed, all good. Yeah, this is not the problem." And he tells me, "Well, I think that text-based advertising is not our future, and you should turn everything off."
Now it's your specialty, right? You were like pretty experienced in search.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah, so I grew through marketing services, yeah, and marketing through search, yeah. So this is the thing that I knew how to do in some way. And well, yeah, fast forward 3 months later, we turned search across the world off, and nothing happened in some way. Yeah, it took us a couple of experiments to gain the confidence to actually do it. Yeah, but that was my first experience of being wrong. Yeah, and being completely wrong. Yeah, and I had some other bets that I made at Netflix that never paid out, and I was actually wrong. So now I say that I don't trust anybody. Yeah, I don't trust myself. Yeah, I only trust what you can actually prove in an experiment. Yeah, and whenever you can't experiment, okay, you'll try to make some data informed decisions, yeah, and deal with the ambiguity, yeah, and go from there. Yeah. So for example, now that we are in that transition and actually training our MMM, yeah, and doing progress in that sense, we have to deal with a lot of ambiguity on how we deploy our marketing dollar. But we embrace it. We don't try to chase or I don't try to chase the wrong metrics for that sense of security, false sense of security, if you want.
Yep. I want to talk about wins and losses. You said there are a lot of failed tests, and I imagine there are also some wins too. But just to close the point on search, you mentioned like you turned it off and nothing happened. We see that often at House, and then there's this pushback that I often hear of like, well, what about the long-term effects of keeping search off? And then, but we'll do that with a different.
I heard that argument before.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Like where we'll turn off Meta and we'll see the business come down overnight. And so I'm like, I just think that I kind of fundamentally reject that as like a reason to turn it back on. Is like, well, we don't know what's happening long term, because if you're not seeing anything short term, chances are there's probably not.
That is my rule. If you don't see anything short term, yeah, you should assume, yeah, that if anything long term, it's not going to be that important.
Yeah. Okay. Talk to us about some big wins or some big failures from the.
Another failure I made, Gagan and BJ at the time at Netflix. They were like we were in this journey of trying to replace as much as possible all of the human input in our campaigns by some type of application of algorithm or automation or machine learning or something. And at the time, I told Gagan, if we move 100% of our spend to be conversion optimized, we're going to run out of people to actually sign up to Netflix. Yeah, so it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, we're going to hurt the long term of the business. Netflix being Netflix was okay. Yeah, let's test it. Yeah, and we actually took some markets aside in Latin America, and we put them into a long-term test of 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters, a full year. Yeah, and at some point we said, okay, this is not working. We were not seeing any difference. Yeah, actually, what we were seeing is that conversion optimized media was actually being more efficient at driving more signups. Mostly at the time was the cost of media efficiency. To be fair, not so much on the performance side, but another big loss. Usually how marketers tend to think, and big loss, and maybe big win.
Juan, I want to repeat that back to you. I think this is super important and probably relevant to some of the house customers. So you were, all of the performance marketing budget was going into a conversion optimized campaign, and you were concerned that you were just going to start circling the drain and you weren't going to be able to find new audiences. And you said we maxed out. And then so I love this because I just love long-term tests, like long-term holdouts. You did what, like a year-long test? And
year-long test in 4 quarters.
Yeah, and you learned that the conversion optimized campaigns were no different in terms of filling the funnel than like mid funnel or upper funnel campaigns.
They were actually filling more of the funnel because the CPM was cheaper, and they were bringing more people. And this was the beauty of Netflix at the time. We had that permission in some way to actually do those crazy things. I also spent millions on that test.
I love that test so much. I think this is the, it might be the ad platforms wanting the TV dollars, but they are also very big on like reach and like mid funnel campaigns. We test them a lot, and it is just, we've seen time and time again, it is not the case that your conversion optimized media is like tapping out in reach. Although they put together these like very pretty reach curves where they'll tell you that you're maxed out so that you'll do more upper.
In general, and you like my hot takes sometimes, but in general, marketers tend to overcredit marketing. Marketing, like, you have to be very careful because it's really, really hard to move a business, and to grow a business and to affect change, and because it's so hard, and marketing doesn't have the effect that sometimes in the industry try to say, that is exactly why you have to obsess over measure. We can go back to the Netflix days, and I'm sure that others can tell their stories, but and this was not just me, it was a lot of people, but we tried everything at this, double the marketing budget, nothing happened. Cut the marketing budget in half, nothing happened. Shut down marketing, nothing happened. Oh no, you have to do out of home to actually launch these shows. Go and buy every billboard that you can, nothing happened. Oh, you have to do TV, buy all of the TV, nothing happened. And there's so many of those cases that I've seen, and it's so hard to actually move the needle. That is why you have to compound all of these small wins through rigorous experimentation.
Yeah, but we have the counterpoint to that from Quibi, where paid marketing was driving, 60-70% of the business on a given day. So do you think that's just like a big company problem? Like because I've now seen it across many businesses where, yes, whatever we were doing at Netflix, we could never get paid marketing to represent more than, a fraction of the business. But we see these, a lot of these D2C brands that are built on Meta. You turn off Meta, tomorrow the business comes down by 60%. So do you think that's just a function of
that is clear. Yeah, so Netflix was a rocket ship with massive product market fit and demand for the product. A product with a huge word of mouth. So that is fair. But all of the arguments were still being made. And applying skepticism, will never hurt you. It doesn't matter if it's big business or small business. I think that skeptical marketing is a good thing for every type of business. So won't hurt you.
There's a really good question in the chat. I'm gonna move over to this. So how did you position it's going back to the conversion optimized campaigns. How did you position the success of those campaigns for broader stakeholder buy-in? Did you get resistance from the teams focused on upper funnel? So like the brand teams in this example.
Olivia has so many stories around this.
I need advice though. Like, how do you...
So let's start with the second question. Did you get resistance from teams focused on upper funnel? Yes, absolutely yes. So when I moved to the Americas team, like there were meetings that depending if I was in the meeting, they would present something, or not, because they knew that they were going to get challenged in this direction. So at some point, people were hiding things from me in this sense. So very, very difficult, and it happens all the time. Look, in the end, so I don't know. Now it's easier. Like I still have these problems. So I go to a board meeting and literally it happened to me the other day that I was getting asked about our out-of-home campaign, because that is basically what creates more excitement. So you never stop in some way selling or having to explain what you're trying to do and why. So it takes a lot of diplomacy, and you have to look for some quick wins, to actually make the point, and take it step by step. You're not going to be able to move everything into what I just described, and sometimes you have to make some compromises and try to steer some of those things in the best possible direction so they have the biggest impact possible, but if you're the one in the room saying always no, you're not going to be invited to that room anymore. So it depends on where in the organization you are and at what stage of the organization or at what stage of the business you are. But it never stops. My day to day, there is a lot of marketing decisions and marketing measurement discussions. I'm always trying to do the right thing for the business. I was going to say something else, but
So I think this goes along nicely with, resistance, challenges, any kind of lessons, any more lessons to share in terms of incorporating incrementality into an org.
So I remember what I was going to say, and we can get to the lessons in a second. The problem that you have also when you realize that you require the rigorous experimentation to actually know what part of your marketing is driving what, is it's a relatively slow type of learning. It's a right type of learning, but it's slow. And many times your business doesn't have the patience for that type of learning. So that is another challenge that you have when managing stakeholders, because I don't know, like you're a Series A company trying to grow, not to be out of business. You might not have the time to actually do all of your perfect experimentation to prove and to do your capital allocation. You're going to be out of business. Maybe a little bit of the Quibi story in some way. So it's a very, very difficult topic where I think you ask about learnings, where you have to learn when to compromise, when to push, when not to push, which battle to pick, which battle not to pick, and how to influence. In the end, like as executives, like you end up having an impact, by being able to influence and move the organization in the right direction. But many times with these topics, it's not everything at once and in just one take. It takes time and have to compromise and deal with the ambiguity in the middle.
Okay. Anything else on incrementality? I want to move on to Juan, the CMO. But anything else before we close out on incrementality? Any other learnings?
We can move Juan, the CMO.
Okay. Connor's still here, and Connor, I invite you to actually jump in and ask some of your questions, because Connor is now CMO, and he's talking about how his perspective has changed a bit coming from growth to CMO. Like, you're a growth marketer through and through, and now you're the CMO with a brand team, with a creative team. Has your decision-making process and like your focus shifted, and like what have you had to learn and unlearn? And again, Connor, feel free to jump off and start a debate here.
Look, I don't believe in the performance growth CMO and the brand CMO and all of these things. The main reason why I don't believe in that is because I heard this story so many times in so many different contexts, and it never played out in the way that I heard the story. So I think that I'm first a business person, trying to grow a business, and that's all it matters. I also think that depending on at what stage of the business you are in, you might do things different. If you go back to the Series A example, that if it doesn't grow, dies, go and tell the person responsible for hitting the numbers and growing that company that you have to do these things in brand because in the next 4 years you're gonna see the returns and you don't have the time for that. Your level of urgency is very, very different. And the truth is, if you are, I don't know, the Procter & Gamble CMO, well, maybe you can afford to do stupid things, because your business moves very little. So 1 point share here, 1 point share there, probably mostly by distribution, not so much by that 700 campaign that you are trying to explain what the soap does. You run out of ways of actually telling the story. So I think that you have very different types of CMOs, and you can hide in a lot of inefficiencies in a business that doesn't need that marketing.
Yeah.
Many times, maybe the marketing is just an insurance. Just in case it works, let's do these campaigns and run things in this way. When you're actually looking for growth, it's very different, and your urgency and your day looks very different. But wait, Olivia, because this is important. So how I interact with my creative team. I think that there is certain things that you should never test or do. And you just don't do it. I made a mistake once at Netflix to do a test with horrible creative, and actually won and reduced cost of acquisition by half. And then we wanted to roll out that horrible creative. That's probably not the right thing to do. So I still look at copy and creative and give feedback and say, no, don't do that. We don't do this. And we take care of the brand, but then the numbers, and the performance decides, and we take that approach to grow the business, in the same way that I still incentivize that we make some bold moves and swing big, because when you get it right, you get it really right, and I try not to waste a lot of time, explaining why a campaign was very successful. If you have to do a lot of explaining, probably it wasn't,
So Juan, are you still also hi? Who are you? Are you still operating under the belief jumped away from Quibi? I think one of the most interesting things on my arrival to Quibi was we had a massive marketing budget, and you and Olivia were like, we are going to buy Meta, Google, Snap, and TikTok was just emerging. And 100%. That's what we focus all of our time on. Are you still of the assumption that for most brands of any size should be spending their time?
Yes. Well, okay, let's pause here. I'm still of the belief, that you have to focus on a few things, and go really deep on those few things, because, marketing is really hard, and getting measurement is very difficult. And the more things that you do, the harder it is, for you to understand what is actually working and not working. A lot of what I do in my first year as a CMO is simplify. Let's do less things. Let's go deeper on these things. Let's simplify. Olivia, you're gonna be very proud. I shouldn't say this. No. Okay. Let's move on to the next topic. But it's simplify. I was going to tell some decisions that I made today, like in this sense. So Connor, it's very, very real to the point that I have examples today. But the other thing that I learned is that it's not good to put all of your eggs in one basket. No. Wait. When I say eggs in one basket, if you're gonna go and buy media and buy impressions, I don't think that the next programmatic platform, the next mobile ad network, or the next, I don't know, video on demand that you can buy is going to make the big difference. I think that if you focus on the big platforms, the big ecosystems, you're going to capture 80% of the value that buying impressions can actually give you. But when it comes to growth, there are other things, that you have to do. What are you doing on your friend referral program? What are you doing on your product, to have more product-led growth loops? What are you gonna do with influencer? What is your PR story? So you need to diversify in all of these different growth levers, and play with all of these growth levers, and then scale the ones that are actually working. And depending on your business, you're gonna choose which levers you pull first. Maybe also going back to the Series A company, you have to resist as much as possible to actually go and spending a lot of your capital into ads, because sometimes it's a very tricky place to spend. And diversifying different growth levers is the smarter way. So I think, Connor, the answer is yes, I still believe that. The way that I expanded my view as I face different challenges is that it's not all about buying impressions. There are many other growth levers that you have to learn how to pull and learn how they work for your business.
Connor, jump in. He asked another question.
Okay, that was a test one. I'm very glad you've passed. The principles. Another thing that you taught me that I'm curious if you could speak to a little bit is just how the incentives in media buying have been really broken for a long time, especially with traditional agency models where, their payments attached to spend. I think one of the things that I experienced, at least at Caraway, was you get a bunch of hungry growth marketers that want to fight for budget, and they view budget they control as a proxy for their influence on the business. And I think trying to right size that perspective to say, hey, that's actually not how you are to be rewarded. Can you speak to that? Because you were the one that enlightened me to that perspective as the guy that used to fight for extra zeros.
Look, my history, right? So a budget as an objective is it's bad. You should think of spending as an inefficiency that you have to do to actually grow. So the quicker that you get out of this way of thinking that more budget is bigger, the better for the business. Also, again, when you're that Series A company that have to go and raise money and justify everything in your P&L, and when you're raising money, everybody's looking at CACs and these things. Like you learn to look after money in a different way than when you are at Procter & Gamble in some way. Poor Procter & Gamble. They're great marketers in Procter & Gamble. I don't mean it in a negative way, but and then when it comes to incentives, it all goes back to you have to be skeptical and trust no one. Of course, the Facebook team has an incentive to actually get you to spend more. They have great products and many times super responsible, but they get measured on that. And the other thing, Connor, I think that you're going to like that the smart advertisers actually have to suffer through many of these problems because of the dumb advertiser. So, for example, the push in Google and Facebook to actually move money out of TV into video and all of these products to drive awareness and these things. Like things that I hear today, that I find it hard to believe, but I like based on priorities, I'm struggling to put a test behind it. This concept that you have to buy for brand awareness, in order to be able to have better results for conversion optimized media, and that is a better tactic. Like I cannot believe that a product manager at Facebook or Google, design a product, that it's meant to grow businesses, without taking that into consideration. That is a construct from the sales teams, because they are trying to get the money from the other pool of budget, in order to keep growing the business. So like if you are a smart advertiser, then you're suffering because you're getting pushed all of these things by the agencies or by the vendors, that are designed to actually trick the dumb advertisers seeking their budgets. So you have to be skeptical and find great partners. Like we will with Zach. Yeah.
Juan delivered on the spicy takes here. All right, we have 2 minutes.
Come on, that wasn't spicy.
That was pretty spicy, but I think I agree. And I have one final question. Connor, thank you for jumping in. One final question from Alex in the QA, and I know folks will probably have to drop off, so thank you everybody for joining. But I can say this because you didn't actually hire me, but you have hired so well. You've hired such incredible people in your career. What advice do you have for hiring managers who are staffing their growth team right now? What are you looking for?
My rule is hire smart, curious people. And if you hire really smart, curious people, then they can do anything. I don't know. Olivia, you know some of the crazy things that I did. Hiring someone to run Facebook that never ran a Facebook campaign in his life. Well, you did that actually, but I probably incentivize you to. So, look, especially when you're in this journey, the problem that you have is that if you hire the specialists with a lot of beliefs, then you're making your journey way more difficult. Because then you have to make your team unlearn everything that they learned. So I think that I hire for skepticism as well. Somebody that can actually look at a problem, and be willing to get surprised, and be humble enough to be wrong, I also made a lot of mistakes in hiring, but I think that probably it's basically that, especially in teams that are dealing with these topics. If you hire the specialist that comes with all of those very strong beliefs that I had at some point, then you're making your life way harder.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are at time. That went by super quickly. Juan, I know how busy you are. I know that it's probably 9 o'clock at night for you and you've missed bedtime. Yes. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom more broadly with this group. I know I speak for everyone here when I say that was amazing. So thank you all for joining. We didn't get to talk about YouTube. Juan, just before I leave you, does it surprise you that Google Ads is underreporting the value of YouTube by 300%?
No.
Yeah. This is what we just uncovered with some data. And it's just, if you're looking at click-based attribution, you just think YouTube can't work. So this is the topic for the next open house that I'm plugging here. But yeah, I'm sure this doesn't surprise you.
You're selling. Okay, perfect. Good.
All right. Well, it does it it's so funny because we saw this at Netflix, right? We were spending as much on YouTube as we were on Meta. And you see that in an incrementality test, but in MTA, it just looks awful. So this has been an eye-opening channel for a lot of folks.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Thank you all. We'll see you guys on the next open house in late March, where we'll be live at Shop Talk. Have a good one. Bye.